حیدر بھائی السلام علیکم.
السلام علیکم.
کیسے ہیں سر آپ؟
الحمدللہ الحمدللہ.
سب صحیح چل رہا ہے؟
جی جی لائیو ہیں.
اچھی بات ہے. ایمان ایمان ادھر آئیں. Give it to me. یہ اوپر لے کے چل رہے ہیں. ہاں تھینک یو. یار یہ کیا السلام علیکم رضوان بھائی.
وعلیکم السلام. اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. الحمد للہ رب العالمین. الصلاة والسلام علی اشرف الانبیاء والمرسلین خاتم النبیین بالقاسم محمد واہل بیتہ الطیبین الطاہرین المعصومین الذین اذهب اللہ عنہم الرجس وطہرہم تطہیرا. اما بعد. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. On this very sad occasion in which we are commemorating the Shahadat of our ninth Imam, Imam Muhammad Taqi al-Jawad ibn Ali ibn Musa alayhi salam. Inshallah, we will start our program as we usually do, the Tuesday night program, with the recitation of Dua Tawassul. For that, I would request Brother Ghulam Haider to start with a short surah followed by Dua Tawassul, inshallah. And then following that, Salman Jafri will, inshallah, conduct the program for the majlis. آپ کی میوٹ ہے, اس کو انمیوٹ کر دیں.
اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. اذا جاء نصر اللہ والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Screen. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله، يا إمام الرحمة، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب عليه السلام، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول، يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله، اشفعي لنا عند الله. يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وسي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه.
Thank you very much, Brother Ghulam Haider, for your beautiful recitation as always. And to all the viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As Maulana mentioned earlier, thank you again for joining us tonight to commemorate the martyrdom of our ninth Imam, Imam Taqi alayhi salam. The program will be as such that we will start with the Urdu portion of the program with the recitation of Salaam, and then Marcia in honor of our ninth Imam, followed by a English Majlis by our very own Maulana Rizwan Rizvi. So with that, we will start the program and get it underway. At first, I would like to request Kamran Mehdi to recite a salam in honor of Imam Taqi alayhi salam. Please welcome him with salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Salaam ke chand ashar pesh karta hun.
Irshad.
یہ زخم سیدہ کو پھر سے رلا رہا ہے یہ زخم سیدہ کو پھر سے رلا رہا ہے بابا نقی کا ہائے دنیا سے جا رہا ہے بابا نقی کا ہائے دنیا سے جا رہا ہے قلب و جگر زہر سے ٹکڑے ہوئے تقی کے روتے ہیں ملک غم میں اللہ کے ولی کے زہرا کے گھرانے پہ ویران چھا رہا ہے بابا نقی کا ہائے دنیا سے جا رہا ہے سادات پہ چھائی ہے ہر گام پہ اداسی صدمے اٹھا رہی ہے احمد کی وہ نواسی چہرہ بدل بدل کے ظالم رلا رہا ہے، بابا نقی کہائے دنیا سے جا رہا ہے۔ آئی ہے جنازے پر رونے کو سیدہ بھی، عباس حسن قاسم اور شاہ کربلا بھی، آیا ہے وہ بھی دل کا جو خون بہا رہا ہے، بابا نقی کہائے دنیا سے جا رہا ہے۔ اے میرے تقی مولا سوچیں تو وہ بھی منظر، تیروں کے مسلح پر تھی جب کہ لاش سرور، اور آپ کے لاشے کو بیٹا اٹھا رہا ہے، بابا نقی کہائے دنیا سے جا رہا ہے۔ مخلص بیاں کروں کیا میں حال تقی مولا، تھا زرد حسن جیسا چہرہ نقی مولا، پھر سبز قبا مجھ کو ہے یاد آ رہا ہے، بابا نقی کہائے دنیا سے جا رہا ہے، بابا نقی کہائے دنیا سے جا رہا ہے۔ بر محمد وآل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم۔
اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔ کامان بہت بہت شکریہ، بہت خوب ایز آلویز۔ مرثیے کے لیے یہ خادم آپ کے سامنے حاضر ہے۔ مرثیے سے پہلے ایک سورہ فاتحہ۔ مولا تقی کی شان میں مرثیے کے چند شعر آپ کے سامنے پیش خدمت ہیں۔ ایک بار صلوات پڑھی علی محمد وآل محمد۔
اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔
آل نبی پہ تازہ مصیبت کا دن ہے آج، آل نبی پہ تازہ مصیبت کا دن ہے آج، گریا ہے آسمان بھی قیامت کا دن ہے آج، اور اہل عذاب پہ نالہ و ریکت کا دن ہے آج، آفاق میں تقی کی شہادت کا دن ہے آج، آفاق میں تقی کی شہادت کا دن ہے آج، اور آل نبی کے شیعوں پہ ریکت کا جوش ہے، اندھیر ہے کہ شمع امامت خاموش ہے، اندھیر ہے کہ شمع امامت خاموش ہے، اور دشمن جو معتصم تھا محمد کی آل کا،
ہے نوے امام پہ ظالم نے کی جفا، کھانے میں اس نے زہر دیا وا مصیبتا، کھاتے ہی اس کے شے کا جگر چاک ہو گیا، کھاتے ہی اس کے شے کا جگر چاک ہو گیا، اور فرتے علم سے آل نبی اشک بار تھے، بستر پہ جان نشین نبی بے قرار تھے، بستر پہ جان نشین نبی بے قرار تھے، اور فرزند کو لگا کے گلے شہ نے یہ کہا، اب میرے بعد تم ہو دو عالم کے مقتدا، لازم ہے صبر وقت بلا میرے میلا کا، ہوتا ہے کچھ ہمارا زمانے سے دل ربا، ہوتا ہے کچھ ہمارا زمانے سے دل ربا، اور جاتا ہوں اے جہان سے منزل میں قبر کی، کرنا تم اہل بیت کو تلقین صبر کی، کرنا تم اہل بیت کو تلقین صبر کی، اور تڑپا یہ ذکر سن کے محمد تقی کلال، ہاتھوں سے دل کو تھام کے دیکھا پدر کا حال، چہرہ تھا زرد دل پہ ہجوم غم و ملال، بولے کہ جو رضا تیری اب رب ذوالجلال، بولے کہ جو رضا تیرے اب رب ذوالجلال، اور فرزند دور ہوتا ہے اپنے پدر سے اٹھتا ہے سایہ باپ کا اب میرے سر سے اٹھتا ہے سایہ باپ کا اب میرے سر سے اور تلقین صبر کی شہ عالی مقام نے بے چینیاں بڑھائی قضا کے پیام نے، اور اگلا لہو منہ سے شہ نیک نام نے، اور پھیلائے پاؤں گاہ سمیٹے امام نے، پھیلائے پاؤں گاہ سمیٹے امام نے، اور آخر اثر سے زہر کے مولا گزر گئے، بیت الشرف میں شور ہوا شاہ مر گئے، بیت الشرف میں شور ہوا شاہ مر گئے، اور سایہ اٹھا امام دو عالم کے سر سے آج، اٹھتی ہے ہوک شیعوں کے درد جگر سے آج، اور آواز گریہ آتی ہے ہر بام در سے آج، دل خون ہو کہ بہتا ہے ہر چشم تر سے آج، دل خون ہو کے بہتا ہے ہر چشم تر سے آج، اور طوفان رنج و غم سے دلوں کو لقب ہوا، وہ ڈوبا جہاز امت آسی غضب ہوا، ڈوبا جہاز امت آسی غضب ہوا، ڈوبا جہاز امت آسی غضب ہوا، اور آخر پسر نے باپ کو غسل و کفن دیا، نور نظر نے باپ کو غسل و کفن دیا، لخت جگر نے باپ کو غسل و کفن دیا، جانے پدر نے باپ کو غسل و کفن دیا، جانے پدر نے باپ کو غسل و کفن دیا، اور ایک دفتر صحیفہ رنج و محن کھلا، دیدار آخری کے لیے جب کفن کھلا، دیدار آخری کے لیے جب کفن کھلا، آل نبی پہ تازہ پر محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. I now request our very own Maulana Rizwan Rizvi to recite the majlis for tonight. Please welcome him with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal faraj. اس سے پہلے کہ میں مجلس کا آغاز کروں, before I begin, I would like to request all of you to please recite a Surah Fatiha for all of those people who are no longer with us. We've lost due to this coronavirus, or otherwise those who are, just recently passed away. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate their status, give them a place in the Jawar of Masumeen. Please recite a Surah Fatiha. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين صلى الله محمد وآل محمد. Also, let's recite 5 times with me this ayat from Surah Namal for the recovery and shifa of all of those who are struggling, whether it's physically or spiritually, financially, whatever the cause may be. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring them out of their difficulties. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 ويجعلكم خلفاء الأرض أإله مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يريدون أن يطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم ويأبى الله إلا أن يتم نوره ولو كره الكافرون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Salaam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Condolences to Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, on this sad occasion upon which we are commemorating the Shahadat of his Jad, our 9th Imam, Imam Muhammad Taqi al-Jawad alayhi salatu wassalam. For tonight's discussion, inshallah, Namaz Maghrib is around 8:42, so I will try and see if I can finish the discussion before so that we can have enough time for ziyarat as well. I chose this ayat from Surah Tawbah, ayat number 32, chapter 9, verse number 32. It's an important ayat in a sense how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses an important word in this verse. And that word rather, is used in other places as well, but is of high importance, especially in this ayat. that when we look at the concept, and again, it's just an example, it's an analogy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving or setting a parable. When he says, yuriduna an yutfi'u nur Allah bi afwahihim, that they desire to extinguish the light of Allah with their mouths. وَيَأَبَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا أَن يُتِمَّ نُورَهُ وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْكَافِرُونَ. But Allah refuses except to perfect his light. يَأَبَ Allah, that Allah, refuses. But he's persistent and he insists upon perfecting his light. Not that the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needs any sort of perfection, but because of the limitation that we have in the language of the translation, we're gonna translate it as perfect his light. Although the disbelievers may dislike it. You look at this ayat and you begin to wonder that has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he uses this concept of extinguishing the light. So here we need to understand that the word nur, which is being used, refers to a concept of light. So we have physical nur, and then we have the immaterial nur. Let's just look at the physical nur, as Quran talks about the physical and as well as the immaterial, the material and the immaterial one, maddi wa ghayr maddi, or ma'anawi. For example, he says in Surah Yunus that huwa alladhi ja'ala ash-shamsa diya'an wal qamara nura, that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has created or who has made sun a radiance and moon a light. So the word nur is being used for the light which moon has. Now, of course, moon does not have its own light. It borrows it from the sun. And eventually that light, either it strikes us directly through sun, or, at nighttime we receive it through the moon. So it says, it is he who has made the sun a radiance and the moon a light. So of course, this light, nobody will question and doubt that it is referring toward that physical aspect of the light, that maddi aspect of the light. For example, this light that is in front of me, that you turn on the switch and the light comes on. This is also nur. Now there's a very important discussion in philosophy. There's an entire maktab of falsafa ishraq, those who talked about and who dealt with nur in their philosophy as well. But aside from that point, the second type of nur is the immaterial or the ma'navi. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls himself to be the nur in that Surah Nur, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in chapter number 24, Allahu nuru samawati wal ard, that Allah is the nur and the light. And again, we're just translating the word nur as light. That Allah is the light of the samawat and the earth, the heavens and the earth. So Allah is nur. Then also we find in Quran this immaterial nur has referred to Quran. وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكُمْ نُورًا مُبَيَّنًا, in reference to Quran. That indeed we revealed to you this nur, which is, quite obvious, which is wadih. There's no doubt about it. So Allah is nur, as that ayat of Surah Nur mentions. Quran is nur. And then when he refers to the Holy Prophet, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, it says, Ya ayyuhan nabi, inna arsalnaka shahidan wa mubashiran wa nadhiran wa da'iyan ila Allah bi'idnihi wa sirajan munira. That, O Prophet, O Nabi, indeed we have sent you as a witness, the one who gives glad tidings, the one who warns people, the one who calls people toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with his permission, and the one who's what? Siraj and Munir. This illuminating, guide, or the lens, if you want to call it. From this we understand that Allah is nur, Quran is nur, and the Prophet is also referred to as nur. So what type of nur is this? That where Allah, Quran, and the Holy Prophet is being considered anwar, or the nur rather, the plural would be anwar. This is the nur of hidayat. This is the nur of guidance, the nur which provides a code of conduct for us so that we can, run our lives. So Allah is the Hadi of all of Ahlus Samawati wal Ard. Quran was revealed because inna hadha al-Quran yahdi lillati hiya aqwam. It guides people, of course, those who want to be straight in the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, the role of Prophet is already understood, and we don't need to further explain the role of the Prophet as to how he's guide to all of us. He's our Hadi, he's our guide, he's, mentioned as the Shahid, wa Mubashir and Nadir, and Siraj and Munir, all of those attributes that are associated with the Holy Prophet. So what's common between this physical and this Nur? So the two types of Nur that we have mentioned. What is common between the two? You need light in your life so that you can see things, right? Imagine living imagine the time when there wasn't any light, and this light was not, produced, and humans had not progressed and advanced to the level where they would be able to produce this electricity or this light. So, you might even refer to as, not in the physical sense, of course, it was in the immaterial sense, the dark age, where they were drowned into darkness, but literally could be referred to as dark age as well, because there wasn't any light. There was no nur. Nur in a sense that they would only utilize the nur that was available throughout the day, during the day, but at nighttime it would be pitch dark. And they won't have it. And they would use these lamps, and they would use this fire to, for example, be able to see something at nighttime. So light is, you can even imagine living without light. There are places, I'm sure many of you come from, where you are accustomed to, when the electricity is lost, for example. Even here, I remember vividly back when Sandy had come and we had lost power, right? So we were without power, and we didn't have any electricity, we didn't have any light, we didn't have any power. And so it was around October time when sun was setting rather, early, and it would get dark. So by the time it was 6 o'clock, it would be dark, and then there's nothing to do, right? So you might as well go to sleep. That's what the concept of night is understood at that time. So light is very important. Without light, we find ourselves to be backtracking, and all of this progress would not have taken place if it wasn't for light. So it does what? It basically provides you with the means to move forward. Otherwise, if there's no light, then you'll fall into a ditch, you'll fall into a hole, and you'll get hurt. Similarly, you need this nur of this immaterial sense. Allahu nur samawat, Quran is the nur, and as well as the Holy Prophet in your life for guidance and making the right decisions. And therefore, when you analyze this ayat of Surah Tawbah, you find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word yuriduna. We are all accustomed to the ayat, innama yuridullah. So the word yurid. Yurid means that it is the irada and the intention. Over there is the intention of Allah. Here, yuriduna is referring to word your enemy. Yuriduna an yutfi'u nur Allah. Who is going to try and extinguish the light of Allah? Of course, the enemy is going to extinguish the light of Allah. Those who don't want you to succeed. Those who are against anti-religion, for example, right? So he uses the plural word over here, yuriduna. And also he uses what? He uses the present tense, fi'l mudari, as we call it in Arabic, which means it is continuous. Similarly, over there, innama yuridullah, it is a continuous thing. Here it says yuriduna, that they are continuously trying to put out the light of Allah. Therefore, you should be ready, because this is a constant thing, and it's not something which happened in the past and it will no longer happen. That's one thing. Number two, Allah gives you hope. Their effort to combat the true religion and the true deen of Allah is like blowing at the sun, which of course won't get them anywhere. Imagine someone is asked to put out the sun with all the technological advancement, let alone ask someone to go ahead and blow at the sun to put out or extinguish the light and the fire that the sun is creating. It's just unimaginable, right? So Allah compares their action of putting out the fire and the nur of Allah Similar to if someone was to go ahead and blow at the sun, to go ahead and blow out or to silent the sun. Is it possible? You can't even imagine it. So this gives you what? This gives you hope that they will never be able to achieve what they are trying to achieve. The word afwahihim, yuriduna an yutfi'u nur Allah bi afwahihim. Afwah, we use the word afwah in Urdu. Afwah कैसे कहते हैं? Afwah वो जो कि सुनी सुनाई बात जो हवा में उड़ गई है, किसी ने फैला दी है, rumors, right? Afwah is the plural of fam over here, which means something that comes from your tongue, utterance from your tongue. And that's the word afwah, which is being used over here. That they try to blow the nur of Allah with their mouths. But in the other concept, you can look at this as that they're not literally trying to blow at the sun, or they're trying to blow at the fire or the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is that what they're trying to do? Because the misdaq of the nur and the hidayat of Allah is what? Is this Quran? You can't put out Quran with blowing at it. Is the Holy Prophet. And then it's the Athar, the Anwar that we are discussing. So can you blow at them to, for example, extinguish them? So it is, used in a metaphoric sense. Hence, we understand the concept that the word afwah is being used because their propagation is through what? It's through their tongues. They propagate against the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They use all of their might and their abilities to go ahead and fuel what? Hatred, rage, and misconcepts, lies, full of lies, so that people will be misled. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what? He says, if the initial call of Islam was from the tongue of the Holy Prophet who is Nur, the continuation of this Nur is in the form of imamat, and that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allahu yutimmu nurahu. That Allah insists on perfecting this Nur, which began from the Holy Prophet in the form of a spreading of this religion, but the perfection is where in the continuation of it in the forms of ma'sumin. So here we understand that we are discussing the anwar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That ma'sumin are what? They're all anwar, which is the plural of nur. And therefore that is the reason I chose this ayat. Coming to, after this muqaddamah of this ayat, and a brief tafsir of this ayat, that we are commemorating the shahadat of our ninth Imam. His biladat is on the 10th day of Rajab in the year 195. Exactly 100 years after the shahadat of our fourth Imam, which was in the year 95. So he's born in the year 195. In the year 195, on the 10th day of Rajab. And his shahadat is on the last day of Dhul Qa'dah, which is the 11th month in the Islamic calendar, in the year 220. I think anyone can do the math here, that Imam's total lifespan is what? 25 years. Just imagine the 25 years of age, it's definitely nearly not enough to accomplish what something like Imam ﷺ was able to accomplish. And this is where we find in the kalam of Imam ﷺ, how when a person came, and this is all done at a very young age. Now don't look at the age of Imams, because the age of Imams does not really matter. Because the age is for those who are assuming and acquiring knowledge in this world. Age matters for them. You would say, well, how old are you? In order to assume how knowledgeable you would be. For example, if someone says, I'm 20 years old, someone would assume that you're probably finishing your college, you're getting a degree, for example. This is your last year, final year of college, for example, or you just graduated, for example. Someone says, I'm 25 years old. They say, well, maybe you have received a master's. Or someone says, I'm, in my late 20s, someone will say, well, you're just attaining your PhD. That's how you go ahead and calculate how long it takes for one to get a bachelor's degree and the master's degree or a PhD, for example. That's how you go ahead. And then if it's a specialized education, if it's, medical field or other field, then you go ahead and assume their age based on that. This is for those who are, required this physical and acquiring of the knowledge. But when you speak about those who brought this knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then age does not really matter. Why would you question the imamat of ninth Imam, for whom, you look at the life of our eighth Imam, that Imam left for Mashhad in the year about 200. His son is born in the year 195. Imam never gets to see his son again. His Shahadat takes place in Mashhad in the year 203, and he does not get to see his son, our ninth Imam. But before he left, he made sure that people understood that who would be his heir and who would be the next Imam. And Imam pointed toward him that this 3-year-old, this 4-year-old will be your leader after my Shahadat takes place. And therefore, ninth Imam, when he was only 7 years old, 8 years old, he told the family members to do matam or prepare for matam. The family member said, why should we prepare for matam? Who has passed away? He said, soon you will hear the news of passing away of my father, Imam Rada. And pretty soon that news came, and there was matam that was done in the house of our ninth Imam. So in this tender age, when he's only 7 or 8 years old, he's assuming the imamat. Now, a lot of people who were firm believers, they did not have any doubt, but there were many people who were, guessers and doubters who doubted his imamat and questioned Imam to go ahead and check and see his ability, if he does really possess the same knowledge or not. So someone came and asked Imam alayhi, what does it mean when we say in regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, la tudrikuhul absar, that the visions of our eyes cannot see and perceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Imam responded, our imagination, wahm, right, is much broader than our vision. That means what? That means what I can see through my eyes, much broader than what I can assume and, imagine in my mind. Right now, if I can imagine something in my mind, I may not be able to see it through my eyes. So that means imagination has a broader spectrum than your eyes. Imam says, when our imagination cannot reach the holiness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how do you expect la tudrikul absar? How do you expect these eyes to be able to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Someone said to him that, why was the Holy Prophet referred to as Ummi? Imam said, what do you think the word Ummi means? They responded right away, the one who is illiterate, the one who does not know how to read and write. Imam became furious. He said, there are liars who associate this, ignorance with the Holy Prophet, with their own ignorance. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he refers to him as Nabi al-Ummi, does not mean the one who's illiterate. Those who have translated this initial ayat of Surah Juma, يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم. In Ummiyeen, the one who sent amongst the Ummiyeen. Now you say, well, because the word Ummiyeen over there is referring to those who are illiterate, that Allah sent amongst the illiterate people a prophet. Who do you think He's going to send? Another illiterate person? The one who does not know how to read and write, to go ahead and purify, to go ahead and teach them, يعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة, يزكيهم, and to purify them and to teach them the book. How is he going to teach if he himself is illiterate? So Imam said the word Ummi as the title of the Holy Prophet does not mean that he was illiterate. Rather, it means he was from Ummul Qura. Even today, people who are from Ummul Qura is the title of Makkatul Mukarramah. Those who are from Ummul Qura are referred to as Ummi. That is the reason the Holy Prophet was referred to as Ummi. Otherwise, Prophet is someone, who knew how to read and write in 72 or 73 languages. This is the kalam of our ninth Imam. Someone said, your father, Imam Rada والسلام, was called Rada because, he was someone who was chosen. Rada, the one who was chosen for being the crown prince, Wali Ahad of Mamun. Imam responded by saying, those who claim such are also liars. The reason he was referred to as Rada, because this is the title that was given to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the reason behind it, because both friends and enemies were satisfied with my father. And you find this combination very rare, that yes, those who are your believers, they are satisfied with you. Even sometimes your believers are not absolutely and completely satisfied. But even your enemies are satisfied with you. That's the title that refers to eighth Imam, and that's why he was known as Rada. And that's why our eighth Imam, he said on the wiladat of our ninth Imam, that هذا المولود الذي لم يولد مولود أعظم بركة على شيعتنا منه. This son of mine, this newborn, this maulud that is just born, no other child, a newborn, has more blessing upon my Shia, upon my followers, than this ninth Imam of ours. So we understand the history that our eighth Imam, first of all, people doubted that because Imam did not have any children. And he only had this one son, who was our ninth Imam, who too was born at the very, towards the end of the life of our eighth Imam. 7 years prior to the Shahadat of eighth Imam. He was born in the year 148. And in the year 195 is his first child born. Just imagine. So a lot of people thought that Imam does not have any children. But of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يَعَبَ اللَّهُ أَن يُتِمَّ إِلَّا أَن يُتِمَّ نُورَهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala insists on perfecting this nur. So this earth could not remain without this perfection. And hence the wiladat of our Imam takes place. So from that aspect, when people were doubting that Imamat will end with the eighth Imam because he does not have any kids, that was one of the answers, هذا المولود. Second, he's the only child of our eighth Imam. We tend to know that our ma'sumin were kathirul awlad. All of them had a lot of children. Amir al-Mu'mineen had many children, and our seventh Imam had many children. So you would say that, other Imams would follow suit, but eighth Imam only had one child, and that is our Imam Muhammad Taqi. But he had children. Amongst them was Musa Mubaraka, and of course our 10th Imam, Imam Ali al-Naqi. Musa Mubaraka is someone who was who died in the city of Qum, buried in his own house in the year about 292. And he is the father of all of the Razavi Sadat that you see in the world today, whether it's in Pakistan or Hind or Turkmenistan or other places in Hijaz. Wherever you see the Razavi Sadat, they're all from the progeny of Musa Mubaraka. Now, the word Mubaraka means someone who had a burqa, right? The one who's covered, his face is covered. And the reason he was called Mubaraka, because he always kept his face covered. He never revealed his face to anyone. Primarily because of the reason of the beauty that he possessed. He did not want people to be, just looking and continuously looking at his face. So the reason I brought this is because eighth Imam only has one son. And then it is through the barakat of our ninth Imam that we find all of these progeny and the Sadat in the world. And that is one of the reasons our eighth Imam is saying that there isn't another Mawlud who's a'zamu barakatin ala shi'atina minhu, who has more barakat for our Shias and then our ninth Imam. We see that amongst the kalam of our ninth Imam, one particular kalam that I want to share with you, as I see that my time is running quickly. Imam, and likewise all of the other Ma'sumin, emphasized a great deal when it came to the ilm. You ever ponder over and contemplate over the titles of each Imam? I just mentioned Rada, the reason behind why Allah called Ali ibn Musa, our eighth Imam, to be Ar-Rada. His name was Ali, son of Musa, title Ar-Rada. That means, both his followers and his enemies were radhi with him. Ninth Imam is known as what? His name is Muhammad ibn Ali at-Taqi. First title that you mention is that he was Taqi. There are many other titles that are mentioned. Ibn al-Rada, Taqi, Jawad. All of these are the titles of our ninth Imam. But why do you think he's called Taqi? The word Taqi, the one who protects himself. And it comes from waqa yaqi, and the same root is used for the word taqwa. That means someone who's muttaqi, someone who has taqwa is called taqi. And therefore it's a common name amongst us Shias that people are called what? Taqi. Why is it that we see that these titles are not random, that there are specific aspects to all of these titles? The reason that you would look at the word taqi to be associated with our ninth Imam and not with any other Imam, although it's not denying the fact that other Imams were not muttaqin, they were at the highest level of taqwa. They were all at the highest level of taqwa. Awwaluna Muhammad, Akhiruna Muhammad. So when all of them are Muhammad, then they are at the highest level of taqwa. But why is it that our ninth Imam is known as taqi? The reason is that we hear and we from the ulama is because maybe it is trying to tell us that you need to adopt this taqwa from a very young age. Our ninth Imam assumes the imamat at a very young age. He's only 7 or 8 years old. And when people question that how can someone who's only 7 or 8 years old to be the Imam? Well, if this was happening for the first time, you would be puzzled and you will be questioning. But this is something which has happened in the past. When you could have a Nabi who's in the cradle of or in the arms of his mother and declare the fact that I am the Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, such as Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, who says, Inni Abdullah atani al-kitab wa ja'alani nabiyya, that I am the servant of Allah, I am selected by him to be the Nabi, his prophet, and I've been given the Shariat. So he's still in the arms of his mother. He's an infant. Yet he's saying what? That I am the Nabi. He's declaring his Nabuwwat. You read the same about about Hazrat Yahya. Quran says, Ya Yahya, khudhil kitaba biquwwatin wa ataynahu al-hukma sabiyya. Oh Yahya, hold on to the book firmly. And we gave him the doctrine when he was merely a child. Sabi in Arabic means a child. So we see that Imam could be referred to as Taqi because he became Imam at a very young age, 7 or 8. And this concept of taqwa should be implemented from a very young age in us. You always hear when we are talking about in our communities, amongst our children, speaking about our kids, that let them have fun, let them enjoy, let them do whatever they want to. We did the same thing when we were growing up. So it's their turn, and eventually they'll learn. When they grow older, they'll be able to, get their acts, straightened out. And then leave taqwa when you are very, very old. Leave taqwa for the time when, you're living a life where you're close to your death, for example, right? Leave taqwa for a very advanced age. Taqwa does not really have any concept and understanding and any meaning when we are very young. Well, that is not the case. Our ninth Imam, being referred to as Taqi, is telling you that instill this taqwa in your children based on their ability to understand and, according to their understanding from a very young age. Don't delay it and tell and say and give an excuse to yourself that they're kids, let them do. Yes, halal enjoyment is all there, but don't let them slip into doing something which is anti-taqwa. That's what the message is. So Imam alayhi who's Taqi al-Jawad, and if I just speak about the titles of Imam, I'll run out of my time, but I want to share a couple of words of wisdom of Imam before I bring you towards the Masa'ib. Imam, in reference to the importance of ilm, danish, and knowledge. What did he say? He said, alaykum bi talab al-ilm. He said, it is incumbent upon you to seek knowledge. فَإِنَّ طَلَبَهُ فَرِيضَةٌ. Because seeking knowledge is obligatory upon you. It's wajib. It's a faridah. Now you look at the salat, right? So you have namaz, which is fariza. You have namaz, which is nafila, right? So Imam uses the same terminologies for ilm. He said, فَإِنَّ طَلَبَهُ فَرِيضَةٌ. Seeking knowledge is wajib. And then he says, وَالْبَحْثَ عَنْهُ نَافِلَةٌ. And then research in it is recommended. So don't just go ahead and learn and then just keep it all to yourself, that I'm not going to share it with anyone. I'm not going to pass it down to anyone. I'm not going to go ahead and, do any research in what I have studied. Then, it sort of accumulates to the fact that you are selfish, that you were only learning for your own sake, and you do not want to impart this knowledge to other people. Why? Because Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib والسلام, when he was comparing ilm with mal, with wealth, what did he say? He said, when you spend wealth, it decreases, unless, except of course, it is given in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then even wealth which is spent increases, although it only seems like that it is decreasing. But overall, wealth, when you spend it, it decreases. Ilm, when you spend it, it increases. Because when I, or someone, a scholar or imam, when he teaches someone something, our sixth imam, who had that institution of 4,000 plus students, imam could have kept that knowledge to himself, or train these 4,000 plus students, who then would disseminate this knowledge, spread this knowledge all over the globe. So we find that imam says what he says: seeking knowledge is wajib upon you, and research in it is nafilatun. It's recommended. Don't let go of this recommend. You know how people are always asking, Maulana, what is the any actions for this night, or any recommended things to do tonight? As we are approaching these very holy nights, we are beginning the month of Dhul Hijj. Every night there will be some amal which are mustahab, of course. There was a mustahab fast that just passed on 25th of Dhul Qada, Dahwal Ard. It is only mustahab, but there are high merits that are associated with it. So that concept of when you go ahead and do research, it is something which is highly recommended. And then Imam says what? Then look at huwa silatun bain al akhwan. This knowledge, it unites brethren in faith. Wa dalilun ala murawwa. It is a sign of your integrity. Wa tuhfatun fil majalis. It's a gift for the gatherings. Wa sahibun fis safar. It is a companion during your travels. Wa unsun fil ghurba. And it is a compassionate friend in your loneliness. How we look at this, so comprehensive in the kalam of Imam alayhi salam. There are many events that took place. Albeit Imam's life is only 25 years, but there were so many events that Imam would indulge into these unnecessary debates. Not that Imam was initiating it, but he was, just like his father was kept busy. Our ninth Imam was also, because the Khalifa of the time felt threatened. The reason Imam was married to Fadl. Similarly, how his father was married to the daughter of Mamun. Mamun, after killing our eighth Imam, after giving Shahadat to our eighth Imam, Mamun then wanted to do the same thing with ninth Imam, because they were afraid of their own hukumat. Up until the year 198, it was the hukumat of Amin, one of the sons of Harun al-Rashid. Then after Mamun takes over, his hukumat goes for about 20 years. In about year 218 is when Mu'tasim comes into power. And this is the same person who's responsible for giving Shahada to our ninth Imam. Our ninth Imam, again, I was not able to get to many of his teachings and many of his stories as I would have liked to, but inshallah, in the coming nights, whenever I have time, I will share more of it. That Imam although he lived only 25 years, out of which you take out the 7 years, which is the life that he spent under his father, and then the rest is about 18 years of his own imamate. And in these 18 years, how Imam والسلام, was able to, keep the legacy of his fathers and this nur that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised, that illa an yutimma nurahu, Imam was able to continue. But his end and his shahadat is just as tragic. And how similar is his shahadat to the shahadat of our second Imam. You understand this marriage to Fadl. When Imam was summoned to Baghdad, he was married to Fadl, daughter of Ma'mun. This was just a political move. Imam had no inclination whatsoever. And then Imam came back to Medina, and Imam remarried. And then through the Imam's wife, Imam had children such as our Imam Ali Naqi and Musa Mubarakah and a couple of daughters that he had. But there were no children through Fadl. And this is also one of the understanding how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give progeny through these political marriages, because Imam did not have any inclination. But this person was situated in order to do a job which the Khalifa of the time needed from him. Imam والسلام, was summoned back to Baghdad in the time of Mu'tasim. Mu'tasim, in order to remove Imam, asks Fadl to go ahead and give poison to Imam in his food. Fadl acts upon it. She gives, Imam food as anyone would serve. I don't have time to go in the explanation of this theological concept of Imam's ilm ghaib and their knowledge of, knowing what's coming, inshallah, for another time. But here Imam والسلام, just like his father who refrained from eating, our eighth Imam refrained from eating those grapes which Mamun had offered him. But Imam والسلام, eats and consumes this food, which eventually starts causing pain all over the body of Imam, and which results that you hear that Al-Mazishan Hadajawadi wrote in his book. He titles and he mentions in it, in Dhikr Fikr, he mentions that Imam actually gave bad dua to Fadl, and because of the pain that Imam went through. But his tragic shahadat is similar to our second Imam, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, whose wife Ju'ada bint Ash'as also did the same thing. Because of the hukum of Muawiyah, she poisoned our second Imam. When Imam Hassan was poisoned, he was spitting blood out of his mouth. And when the blood was being spit out of his mouth, Imam والسلام, he told Imam Hussein to remove this blood from front of him. He does not want his sister Zainab to see her brother in this state. I would say, oh Imam Hassan, you cannot bear Zainab to see you spitting out blood from your mouth. Very soon in Karbala, Zainab will be present where she will see the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, Sayyid al-Shuhada, when his blood will be gushing out because his head will be severed from his body. Our ninth Imam, Imam Ali, Imam Muhammad Taqi al-Jawad, he lived a very short life of 25 years, but a pur barakat life for which our eighth Imam said that there's no other mawlud a'zamu barakatan minhu, that has more barakat than this mawlud. Imam والسلام, was also, his life was terminated and he attained the shahadat at a very young age. But look at the shahadat of our second Imam, how similar it is. But second Imam would say, La yawma ka yawmika ya Aba Abdullah, there's nothing tragic about my shahadat. Nothing could be compared to the way you will be martyred, oh my brother Hussein. There's no day like the day, oh you Aba Abdullah. And second Imam was correct, that how Imam Hussein and his martyrdom take place, that he was left in the plains of Karbala. Well, Ummat Muslimah watches. Imam والسلام, was martyred. His body was brought down to the ground. His children were killed in front of him. His companions gave their lives. And that was not enough for the enemy, that they trampled their bodies by running the horses over them. And that was not enough, that they severed the head of Imam والسلام, until the time that Imam's body laid in the plains of Karbala. Nobody is there to go ahead and bury. At least Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba was given the burial by his own brother. Imam Muhammad al-Taqi was buried by his son. But here Imam Hussein's son, Imam Zainul Abidin, looks from the tent that his Baba's body is being trampled, but there's nothing that Imam can do. ألا لعنة الله القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. But Allah, please accept our ibadah tonight. Allah, we've committed a lot of sins. Please forgive our sins. Allah, give us the tawfiq and the ability to be able to follow the commands and the teachings of Masumeen alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah give us the tawfiq and the ability to follow the teachings of our ninth Imam, Imam Muhammad Taqi al-Jawad alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah hasten the zuhur of our awaited Imam and make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Since it is the time for adhan, inshallah we'll have the adhan first, and then followed by adhan we will inshallah have the ziyarat.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك يا نبي الله السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا حبيب الله وعلى ابن عمك أمير المؤمنين وعلى ابنتك فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين وعلى ولديك الحسن والحسين سيد شباب أهل الجنة وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذرية الحسين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفة الله السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مزهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله إني بكم مؤمن وبيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها الشهيد وابن الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه. السلام عليكم يا أسفياء الله ووداه. السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الناصح. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله. بأبي أنتم وأمي طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما. فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوسيين. السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقدمهم إيمانا وأقومهم بدين الله وأحوطهم على الإسلام. أشهد لقد نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك فنعم الأخ المواسي. ولعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر والأخ الدافع عن أخيه المجيب إلى طاعة ربه الراغب فيما زهن فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل. والحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. زيارة إمام محمد تقي. السلام عليك يا ولي الله. السلام عليك يا حجة الله. السلام عليك يا نور الله في ظلمات الأرض. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك وعلى آبائك. السلام عليك وعلى أبنائك. السلام عليك وعلى أوليائك. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وتلوت الكتاب حق تلاوته وجاهدت في الله حق جهاده وصبرت على الأذى في جنبه حتى أتاك اليقين. أتيتك زائرا حارفا بحقك مواليا لأوليائك معاديا لأعدائك فاشفع لي عند ربك. ارحم من أساء واقترف واستكان واقترف. إن كنت بئس العبد فأنت نعم الرب. عزم الذنب من عبدك فليحسن العفو من عندك يا كريم. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليك مغيظ الشيعة والزوار في يوم الجزاء، السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس ونيس النفوس أيها المدفون بأرض الطوس، السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى رضا ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان، السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا شريف القرآن، السلام عليك يا إمام زماننا هذا أجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله مخرجا وجعلنا من أنصار وعونك، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.